We're all part of a gaming industry Nintendo jump-started, but there was a time when it seemed like Nintendo would be a third wheel in an industry they kicked off. During this time, Nintendo attempted to compete in power over the other consoles. They absolutely held their own in terms of power, but ultimately not in terms of appeal. They would then realize they could not win with this strategy and took a completely different route. This route has been dubbed the Blue Ocean Strategy. Nintendo decided instead of participating in a graphical arms race, they would focus on other aspects of making appealing gaming hardware and software. In doing this, people have accused Nintendo of no longer competing, and many videos talk about the console wars while barely mentioning Nintendo or not acknowledging their existence at all. They say Nintendo is not competing in the same market or for the same audience. Quite frankly, I see this as nothing but maximum strength cope. This is how people deal with a gaming platform dominating the competition when it's underpowered and not as capable. How can a 15-year-old tech potato system be mopping the floor with all comers who are vastly more powerful?
Over the years, I know you've heard a lot of Nintendo people say, we're all about the game. Well, guess what? We are. Whether you're talking about Donkey Kong or Tetris, Madden or Mario, Metal Gear or Resident Evil, he with the best games wins. Always been that way, always will.
It really doesn't matter how you come to having the best game. Sometimes it can be the game with the best graphics. But this is not the only way to make a great game. Art direction, gameplay mechanics, narrative, character design. There are a lot of aspects to making a great game. Still, because Nintendo doesn't focus on the same aspects of a game as the competition, they're looked at as having circumvented competing, thus not really being in the race. Let's deal with the first accusation, which is the handheld argument. Nintendo didn't know how to compete in the home console space, so they left it to make handhelds. It's funny how all the other companies who tried their hand at the handheld market, no pun intended, they crashed and burned. Sony did have the best go at it with the PSP, selling some 80 million units. It still got dog-walked by the less powerful Nintendo DS, being outsold nearly 2-1. After the PlayStation Vita died in its crib, Sony left the handheld market alone. Some might mention the PlayStation Portal, but it's nothing but Sony's take on the Wii U. What people need to realize is the way people play games has evolved. Board games were the most popular gaming medium until the coin-op arcade. This lasted until the home consoles were good enough to replicate arcade graphical quality on a home console. We're now in the time where mobile gaming is taken off and rendering living room tethered console gaming obsolete. None of these changes happened overnight. They actually took decades to develop to where they could replace the old way of gaming. Nintendo is at the forefront of changing how people play their games. This isn't Nintendo running from competition. It's Nintendo ruling over their competition and pulling the rug out from under them. Home console gaming isn't the thing anymore, and Nintendo is leading people further and further away from it. Valve, Asus, and Lenovo are trying to jump on the handheld bandwagon. Microsoft is more or less walking away from home consoles to be the Netflix of gaming, and are even looking into releasing their own handheld gaming device. The one still holding on to their home console is Sony. The people who bought their DVD player/gaming console are all grown up and have families, jobs, and outgoing social lives. They don't have time to sit in front of a TV and game for hours. They want to take these gaming experiences on the go to the break room, the bus, the train, the plane, the toilet, the boring family reunion, or wherever they decide to venture to. Gaming is on the move, and the competition better keep up. The other point is how Nintendo is in a different market and is doing things different than the competition, and therefore not competing. This is going back to the notion of the Blue Ocean Strategy. Is this what Nintendo is really doing? Are they offering a different product from the competition, or offering the same product in a different way? They're still making video game consoles and games to play on those consoles, just like everyone else. They're offering unique ways of doing this with their hybrid system. But does this mean Microsoft has a blue ocean strategy as well, by also offering multiple ways to play their games through mobile and the cloud? Nintendo is more of a traditional gaming company than their competition, as they're the only ones still offering you a game box with games. The only reason Sony hasn't totally abandoned their hardware is because they don't have the gaming properties like Microsoft, and they don't have the highly valuable exclusive games like Nintendo. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they've been looking to put more of their games on PC. Nintendo isn't creating a new market, they're expanding on the old one. Their goal is to get more people to play video games. Masahiro Sakurai made an excellent point in one of his podcasts dealing with market research. He speaks in his native tongue, so you'll have to look at the subtitles.
マーケティングっていうのは既存のものから想定するデータです。これからの道を示してくれるわけではありません。ユーザーの境界線はとても曖昧です。可愛いものが好きな高齢者だっているし、ハードな表現を好む子供もいます。決してどこかで線引きできるものではありません。例えば、初代星のカービィは初心者層に向けているゲームですが、私が子供向けなどといったことはありません。初心者には当然のように大人も子供も男も女も含まれます。強いて言うならターゲティングは初心者ということになります。年齢ではないですね。
Nintendo doesn't make games for children. They make games for beginners. Their games focus on those without a gaming background or not having a high skill level. Making games more accessible is important when trying to expand your audience and bring more people into gaming as a whole. We all know about the Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fights. Fury could not beat Wilder by matching him power for power, so he found a different way to beat him by being tactical and boxing. Does this mean Tyson Fury stopped competing? Of course not. It means he went back into the ring with a different and much more effective strategy to win the fight. Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are all making gaming consoles with video games for people to play. Microsoft and Sony believe you can win by making the most powerful and most capable system you can make. Nintendo believes you can win by making games which are fun and accessible. Microsoft and Sony are throwing the haymakers, while Nintendo is being tactical and boxing. Nintendo has mastered the sweet science of video games. Guerrilla warfare is the way armies throughout history with less troops and less guns beat bigger armies with more guns. Again, styles make fights, and they also make video games. Fun and accessibility beats raw power, and it's been this way since the NES took the TurboGrafx-16's lunch money, and when the Game Boy threw the Game Gear and Atari Lynx down a flight of stairs. Work smarter, not harder. Effectiveness is more important than effort. The video game industry is now in Nintendo's hands, similar to how it was in the 80s. It's been quite a turnaround from the abysmal Wii U era. We'll see if Nintendo can keep the good times rolling with their next system.